Welcome to Surviving Schizophrenia with Steven. My name is Steven. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I had psychosis at age 12 that developed into schizophrenia. Here's how I dealt with it and my advice to any parents. I'm 25 years old now, and at the end of this video, I'm going to tell you about how I'm doing today. My psychosis started off with delusions. I began to pretty rapidly deteriorate and believe that I was part of a war of the gods of heaven and hell. My mind was starting to slip, my memory was starting to slip, and I was losing who I was. And that felt scary. I didn't fully realize what was going on at the time. I was falling into psychosis, but I felt on edge all the time. I was worried and I was scared. And that happened very rapidly too, maybe in the course of a matter of months. And things just began to go south very quickly. And I'm sure people around me realized, and I'm sure my classmates, for example, I was in 6th grade, I'm sure they realized too something was going on. But it wasn't until a little while after that I actually got help. And was eventually hospitalized for 2 weeks, and that was the beginning of the end of my psychosis, because then I was actually put on the right medication to help me come out of it. During the onset of my psychosis, I felt like I was being targeted. I felt like everyone around me was thinking or watching me or doing something that was going to harm me. I was seeing hallucinations of eyes outside my window, for example, and I thought people were watching me, and I was in a constant state of not fight or flight, but like just fear, and just fear, really. And it was crippling, and it got to the point where I couldn't do much in my life because of it. And, you know, I have a little advice actually to share there. If you are a parent of a child who is going through that, for example, just know what is real to the kid, the person in psychosis, whoever it may be. It's very real to them, no matter how obvious it might be to everyone else that what they're seeing, what they're hearing, what they're believing is not real. To them it is. To me it was. And if someone had just told me, no, you're totally fine, no one's watching you, I wouldn't believe them. I would have just been like, yeah, you don't know what's actually happening. Because to me it was very real. And I don't remember my psychosis very well for a lot of it, and what actually happened during the 2 years I was psychotic for, from around 2012 to 2014. I think it was too traumatic for me, and I can't remember it for that reason very well, for a lot of that time. But the times I do remember would be, like, I'd talk to my parents, because I'd be at home with my parents, and I think I'd talk about a lot of things, but I don't think a lot of things made sense. And I know my parents would listen, my dad especially, would just listen to me. And I think that was the right thing to do. He couldn't convince me that what I was thinking, what I was seeing was not real. Because to me it was. So for him, he just listened. And I think listening was one of the best things he could do at the time, because nothing else he could do would have made a difference. But if he listened, to me it felt like he cared. To me it felt like he was actually understanding and not trying to do something that I thought would be harmful to me, because I was not well at the time, and I would have probably taken any kind of help from my dad if he was trying to convince me that what was going on was not real. I would have taken that the wrong way, and that would not have helped anyone. My living situation at that time did not change for about those 2 years, except for when I was hospitalized for those 2 weeks at UCLA Resnick Neuropsychiatric Hospital. And I actually remember, and this is one thing that actually helped, but I told my dad, don't change anything. And that was because any change would have drastically affected my mental health. Had we moved, had we started doing something different even in the house, even in my routine, anything like that would have stressed me out and exacerbated the issues here. So by not really changing anything, by not putting anything on me that I had to do, because I wouldn't have been able to do it anyway, for example, like chores, I wasn't doing much in my life at that time, but that was good because I was struggling with what was in my mind. And so had I had to do something else, that may have just made it worse at the time, and I probably wouldn't have done it anyway or done a good job. I was not well enough. And so had my parents been pressuring me to do things or go back to school or something, which I eventually did do, but at the time I couldn't, that would have just made things far worse. About a year into my psychosis, the school district recommended to my parents that I'd be sent to a residential care, I guess, unit. I think in, I forget, a different state. And my parents said no, which was the right call. As I mentioned earlier, change was hard for me, and that would have been a massive change in my life that I might not have recovered from. I might not have actually been doing as well as I am today had that happened. And so that was a very good thing that my parents didn't change anything and didn't send me off. Even though that was being recommended by the school district at the time, that wasn't the right call. And my parents did make the right call by not sending me over there, because who knows what would have happened to me otherwise. And if you're a parent and so your child is going through a similar thing that I did, consistency, in my experience, was key. Not changing anything, just keeping everything as relaxed as possible was crucial. Because for me, when I was in psychosis, I was not relaxed at all. I was always on edge, stressed out, anxious, depressed, everything. Everything was happening. I was like that. I couldn't handle anything else. And so if anything else came up that wasn't what I was used to and consistent with what I've been dealing with, that would have set off even more stress and pushed me over to the edge, whereas I would shut down and wouldn't be able to do anything else. During this entire time of psychosis, I was on medication. And I was never once violent. It's a very big misconception that people with schizophrenia, even if they're on medication, that we are more violent than others, and that is not true. Medicated people that are medicated like me with schizophrenia, we are no more likely to be violent than anyone else, except maybe to ourselves. And actually, I was suicidal around this time as well. And that, in my mind, I thought if things get bad enough and I don't see a way of them getting better, that's it. And I told my parents, when I decide to jump off the cliffs by our house, I'll run and you won't catch me. And my parents, they just kept an eye on me after that. They didn't do anything drastic. They didn't, again, change anything really. But they kept an eye on me just to make sure. And I never did make any attempts to end my life. But, I mean, I came close. But my parents also made the right call by not doing anything else different then. Because who knows what would have happened. I did have very good psychiatric care during this time. And since. I would see my psychiatrist, I don't even know, maybe sometimes multiple times a week to once a week or more. I had, a little later on, I had a teacher coming to my house, and she wasn't so much trying to teach me things as much as just get my mind to do something and think about things, and also get me out. I also had a therapist. She would come over and sometimes at the same time as my teacher, and they would both help me out, get me to read a book about something, or get me outside, go for a short walk, or go to like the store, which was stressful. I remember I went to a store called Whole Foods one time with them, and I was still not well at all, and I actually went inside 5 or so minutes later, broke down, and had to be taken back outside, get some water, and go home. Well, that was incredibly stressful, and maybe that seems on paper like that might not have been the right call. Maybe I shouldn't have gone, I wasn't ready. That was a good thing, because that was the start of me getting out. And while it was a rough start, it was still a start, and I needed that start to start getting out more in the future. So to all the parents out there whose children may have psychosis, I want to try to explain the best I can how to talk to them based on how I experienced being talked to when I was in psychosis. And the first thing is, when you're in psychosis, things that are completely out of the realm of reality are very real. And if, say, someone had told me again that, like, what you're seeing is not real, and just brush it off like that, try to convince me that what I'm feeling, what I'm seeing, what I'm believing, what I'm hearing is not real, that doesn't help, and I won't believe you. And really, some of the best advice I have is just listen. Just be there for the kid in psychosis. Because what they're going through is incredibly stressful and terrible. And there's not many ways to help in that regard. Aside from, of course, getting the medical care and, talking to doctors, psychiatrists, getting medical help, because that's the most important thing. And when talking to them, just kind of go with the flow. If they're saying something, don't try to contradict what they're saying. Just acknowledge it, maybe continue the conversation. It doesn't have to make sense to you, as long as it makes sense to the person in psychosis. And it's not going to be easy at all to talk to someone in psychosis, especially if it's your child. I'm not a parent, so I can't even fully imagine that, but I know for my parents it was incredibly difficult. And just, try not to be confrontational in any way. Try not to raise your voice too much, because even now when someone raises their voice, I get worried that they're angry at me, even if they're just raising their voice because they're excited. Keeping like a regular, more monotone, calm voice and calm demeanor and calm however you're saying, that's the best way to talk to someone in psychosis that's the best way I can put it. Just stay calm. You don't have to convince them of anything. They don't have to convince you of anything. Go with the flow. Stay relaxed. It doesn't have to make sense as long as it keeps your child calm. I'm now 25. Actually, I'll be 26 in a couple months, a little over 2 months. And let me tell you how I'm doing today, because everything I've talked about has been pretty bleak, and I appreciate you watching this far, because that could not have been easy to get through for some people, especially if you're a parent. But I'm doing so much better today. 13 years after falling ill with psychosis and schizophrenia, I have recovered immensely. I am doing good now. Still struggling with depression and anxiety, of course, but no psychosis. I haven't had a hallucination except for one hallucination I had like a year and a half ago in about 10 years. That psychosis lifted and has not come back. And I attribute it to good healthcare, my parents, my family, extended family. That support has helped so much. The medication and me staying on my medication and making sure I take it every day, I guess every night. Keeping the stress low, trying to relax as best I can. All of that has helped and gotten me to a point where now I can make videos like this and do things in life and get out, go to Whole Foods and not be stressed out and have a mental breakdown. It took a long time, a very long time, to recover to where I'm at today. But I'm happy I did. I'm happy that my parents did the right things and got me to a point where I could recover to be here today talking to you. Just remember, if you're a parent out there whose kid maybe just fell ill with schizophrenia or in psychosis right now, there is hope. Things can and will get better. You just gotta keep pushing and persevere through the hard times, because it's worth it in the end, because eventually your child, with the right treatment, will come out of psychosis and they can recover and live a good life. I think I'm proof of that. Yeah, I really hope this video helped, because it's not easy at all, to have a child with schizophrenia, as someone with schizophrenia and a child of two parents that have helped me through my schizophrenia. It's probably one of the most difficult things as a parent you can go through, and as a person with schizophrenia you can go through. But it's definitely possible to survive it and thrive with it, even if it looks bleak now. And with that, I hope you have a happy and healthy rest of your day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.